Hi, everybody, and welcome to NLL Lacrosse Talk on Spangler's World Network, seen on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, please make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, also on smart TVs 2016 and above. Now on NLL Lacrosse Talk, allow me to introduce my guest for this week, Bryan Cole. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You have had a busy month between an MSL championship, a Man Cup, getting married. It's must be nice just to kind of sit there and just kind of breathe for a minute, eh?
Yeah, this is the first time in the entire year that we don't have lacrosse for about 2-3 weeks. So, yeah, I went up to the cottage and just trying to decompress a little bit and just kind of reflect on the whole summer.
Yeah, this was quite a whirlwind. That team put together Six Nations was just an absolute juggernaut from the word go, and it just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And all those meetings with Peterborough where you'd expect it to be like the measuring stick, they really weren't much of a measuring stick. You guys just were so good. The only time I really think it was a little bit depleting was during the Worlds when a lot of them went to Canada, went to San Diego.
Yeah, I think you look at that league. There's a fair amount of pretty good teams from Ontario and BC. So you certainly don't want to take anybody lightly. And Peterborough's the 4-time Man Cup winner in the last 4 years, right? So a very strong team every year. But no, I think the general consensus with everyone was, as we were leading up to the season, we started to pick up more and more guys that you looked at like Cree and Rubish, and it was like, wow, okay, we're looking really strong here. So certainly a ton of belief in the locker room from day one.
Right. At every position, you were so deep, even goaltending between Jameson and Hill, moving out into defense, transition, everywhere. You guys were strong. Face-offs with Jeremy, everything. So it was just an absolute well-constructed team and mission accomplished, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think I think the biggest thing about our team this summer was everyone really got along well, and there was nothing forced. And you never know how it's going to go, right? And you guys get teams or guys from all sorts of different teams in the NLL, and I think our team gelled really quick. We had a lot of fun together away from the floor. We did a couple golf outings this year, and I think everyone got along really well, and you just really felt like you wanted to play for one another.
Right. All right, let's go back a little bit. The Hill Academy, you went to school there. We've had a number of guys on who coached there, but I don't think we've had many who actually were a student there. So I want to get the other perspective of going through the program, how it helped you, again, your game, but also mentally to get you ready for what was coming up next.
Yeah, I think the Hill was a fantastic experience for me personally. It was something that I think in terms of where my life was going, changed the trajectory for me. I wasn't fantastic academically, and I also didn't necessarily take it as serious as I should have when I was young. And then once I went there, it really flipped. And I had the opportunity to play in front of tons of great coaches. I played for great coaches like Bryce Queener and Brody and Patrick, Merrick Thompson. So, it was a point in my life that I certainly needed it. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity to go there. And then you look at, it's a factory now. Like they just pump out guy after guy after guy that goes into college and contributes right from the start usually. So, it was a great point in my life. I also made a lot of good friendships that I've continued on through lacrosse. I was able to play with like Riley O'Connor and Zach Haywires, Kyle Whitlow. There were tons of guys on that team that I still talk to today. So it was an awesome experience through and through.
Right. And we've watched that place grow from just 18 people to where it is now on acres. And just the absolute sheer, like you said, it pumps out college to pro guy one after another after another. Now, when it comes to going into college, how much input did they have on where you should be going, and how much help did you get to get there?
My experience was a little bit different. Once I got to the hill, we went down for like a few tournaments in the fall, and that's when it kind of came on really quick for me. I started talking to a few schools that were all looking to make or looking to get a decision, I guess, pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of the guidance part, Brody was pretty laid back. He really just wanted us to go experience the school. So I was able to visit a few schools along with Maryland. And, when I got back, he just asked me about it and gave me his opinion and his perspective on the landscape of college lacrosse and where he thought I stood in terms of, my playing ability. So he was, hands off in a sense that he kind of wanted us to make the decision for ourselves and
Right.
feel comfortable with it, but also, was someone we could lean on as a mentor that played at that level,
Mm-hmm.
certainly at a very high level, but had
Right.
a lot of insight towards the schools that we were making our decisions on.
Right. Okay. Now, all along the way, you're in with Junior A. You start out with Oakville, and you wind up doing 4 years in Burlington with the old Chiefs. Of course, now the Blaze.
Yep.
Let's talk about the program there, because I know that a couple of people that you still deal with now were part of the program there.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun in junior lacrosse. We didn't ever really make it past the first round, from what I can recall,
Mm-hmm.
when I was with Burlington. But it was a summer that, again, you keep coming back, and over 4 years, you get to make a lot of really good friends. So, guys like Tyler Albrecht and Dan Lomas, Patty Corbett,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Rouet. We had a fair amount of guys on that team that that were pretty skilled, and we had a lot of fun together, which was great. We would spend a lot of time with each other off the floor. But to see, where that program's come, how far they've come in the
Mm-hmm.
last 10 years or so since I've been there.
Right.
It's really encouraging. It goes from like we had a lot of fun, and now the guys are really taking it seriously, to the point where they're getting solid coaches in. You look at what Danny Mack and Alex Krepensek and Sean Gillies as the GM have done for that team, and they're competing all the time, and it's great to see. I actually got to go to a few games this summer, so that was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And during that time, you started to find your niche too, because you're averaging over 20 goals a year. I think it was 226 points through your junior career. So you were finding your box niche. You already had found your field play. So at that point, I guess the decision would be field or box, right?
Yeah, I was fortunate to kind of get thrusted into certain situations in a game where you had to play on both sides of the ball, and I just found that I was kind of effective equally, in that sense. So I was really just trying to play as best I could to help the team win. But yeah, no, I really started to love box lacrosse once junior came on, and you got a feel for the playoffs, and you got to see what the Minto Cup looked like. I was able to be a spectator for that. I wasn't able to play in any, but you really got to see how intense it was and how much it means to the kids at home here in Canada. So, yeah, that's when the love of box lacrosse really started to spread for me.
Right. And you being a bigger body, that's more your kind of game, really. I think transitionally, you're good at defense, you're quick, you have a great shot. So you're kind of like the everyman thing in there. So you can play anywhere for anybody.
Yeah, I think that started kind of in Burlington, getting thrown into different situations, and then it was great to get the offensive experience that I got when I was down at school,
Mm-hmm.
and that just kind of translated into a lot of confidence going into the pros, because I knew I was able to make some plays on the offensive end, and my strength, I guess, was kind of in between the lines when I was playing box. So.
Right.
Yeah, again, I try and take the same kind of mentality into the pro game and just help our team wherever I can. If it's going out the back door for 3 or 4 games and then out the front door for one, if it helps us win, I'm kind of all for it.
Yeah, you kind of remind me a little bit of Ian McKay and that idea that if they gave him goalie pads, he'd jump in net. I'm pretty sure you'd do the same thing.
Yeah, I love Ian's game. Again, like he's able to get up and down the floor, and then you see like plays where he lays the body out. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, his game is developing like crazy. It's been cool to watch, and he's making a ton of plays on the offensive end.
Right. All right, let's talk about Maryland. You get in there. The first year you get hurt and you don't really get to play too much. I think you got into 2 games or something like that. As you came along, I think it was in year 3, and you started playing every game, starting every game. It really looked as though you found your calling, your niche, and it just you took off from there and became a real integral part of the program. Let's talk about the program first off, and the coaching and everything. What sets it aside from so many other programs here? Because it's always been the cock of the walk.
Yeah, I would, right off the bat, I would say Coach Tills. He's been such a good person and a good leader for so many guys that have come through that program. Um, I was really fortunate to be able to play for a guy like him. He really cares about what his players are doing after school more so than anything. Winning games and winning and the things that come with that are all great, but the biggest thing for him is like, are you a good person? Do you have good character? Are you taking care of your family off the field? Certain things like that
Mhm.
that I think the winning and success comes as a byproduct. So um, I guess they get fantastic recruits every single year, right? They're kind of in the hotbed of lacrosse, but um, Maryland's such a storied program. It's over 100 years of history and national championships. So, having the opportunity to go there was pretty cool. Very surreal to look back on. I didn't really know how big it really was until I got to campus.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was pretty cool to play for Coach Tills. And then I had a lot of really good teammates, so many first team All Americans that have come through that place that,
Right.
I was fortunate to play with. So yeah, a lot of success there because of them.
Right. My question is, when you first got there, was it what you expected?
To be honest with you, I didn't really know what field lacrosse or like what college lacrosse to the level that it was at that
Mhm.
point. I think it being from Toronto, we were a little bit naive. I guess we didn't have the social media access as much
Yeah.
as they do now. I think when I was younger, when I was in high school, they used to play the national championship game on TV, and that was really the only time that you would see college field lacrosse. So
Mhm.
um, I was a little bit naive to what I was walking into, but when I got to the campus for my recruiting visit, I was with my family, and we walked around, we saw the team. We walked through, which with Coach Cottle at the time.
Mhm.
And we just kind of got to the end of the whole thing, and I stayed the night, and the next day I just kind of looked at my mom and I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, this place is awesome. And that really concluded the recruiting for me. That was where I wanted to be. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, a lot of formative years, a lot of mistakes that were made, and learning that happened. But in terms of the lacrosse side, it was I wouldn't change a thing. It was awesome.
Right. And of course, like I say, you excelled in there. First team All American, as well as team captain in your final year. And you wound up with an education, right? You had a Bachelor of Arts in American Studies. So I'd say it's a win win.
Yeah, I think the lacrosse side, we had a lot of success, but I think the biggest part is we grew a lot as humans together, and I made a lot of friends that I'll have forever there. So yeah, playing in playing in some of the biggest games in NCAA lacrosse was really the cherry on top.
Right. All right. And you wind up getting selected in the second round with the Ohio for the Major League Lacrosse. Let's talk about that and that league. And for the longest time, that was it. That was the league, right?
Yeah, that was cool. We went in, and I didn't. It was a lot of fun. It was like a situation that we had watched more and more as you kind of went through college, and you saw guys before you end up at with teams in that league, and you kind of had a few teams that you liked, and
Mm-hmm.
I was actually fortunate to get drafted to Ohio with Kyle Bernlohr. So he had been our goalie for, the entire time that I was at school. We were actually roommates for a year. So that was certainly cool. One of the best goalies in NCAA lacrosse and one of the best goalies at Maryland. So I was happy to be on his side.
Right. I always loved it when it was here in Toronto, going to Nationals games. It was always a lot of fun. I wish the attendance was a little bit better here, but anyway. But the teams, man, those teams were something else. Brody and the
Yeah, our team. I think our first line was Kyle Harrison, Peter Baum, and Tom Schreiber. Like it was pretty ridiculous to watch them play. As a rookie in the league, you're not playing too much, but watching them get up and down the field and seeing some of the, Kyle Harrison obviously being a legend in the game, and then Tom Schreiber was pretty young at that time, growing into the legend that he is now. So it's pretty cool.
Right. Now, by your, I guess your fourth team in there, the Cannons, and you finally win a championship. I guess that was in the bubble, was it?
That was the bubble.
That was a great idea. That was the one that worked, right?
Yeah, sort of. It was cool.
Yeah, the final was a little weird.
It was. We got to play at Navy Stadium, which was awesome. A ton of history there, and being back in Maryland was pretty cool. Our team kind of got thrown together, and Coach Quirk led us to a championship. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and time in Boston was definitely cool.
Right. Now, the bubble itself, I don't think a lot of people really know what went into it, because most guys had to sit there for 2 years and kind of look at their stick and hope that, we can dust it off and use it. You actually had a chance to go and play. What all went into while you went into the bubble? Like, how much of your life did you have to give up just so that you could do this?
I think it was 7 days, so 7 to 10 days that it happened. There was a lot that went into it in terms of planning. But once we knew that we had the green light, it was kind of you had to book off 7 days, 10 days of work. And it all happened pretty quick. You got on the flight, got there. It was like a mini camp for, 4 hours of the day. And then you kind of got right after it. But it was interesting. Not often do you stay in the same hotel with 6 different teams. And, you're staying on the other side of the hall from the opposing team, or you got some guys that you've played with in indoor or whatever down the hall. So it was interesting, to say the least. It was a different experience, but happy we had success there.
Right. Now, I know as a fan myself, after a while of no games, a guy like me just went absolutely nuts to watch everything. It was, I couldn't thank you guys enough for getting out there and doing it. To see live games again was just, there's a light. There's a light.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was like 120 degrees on the turf those days. So, it was a battle of attrition more so than anything.
All right, let's talk about the Georgia Swarm stuff. You were picked first round, 4th overall, and you go into a team that's almost at the brink of the championship. The next year, in fact, it is. I want to talk about that year, and then of course I want to talk about the championship itself, because there were some weird things in that series too. But just getting onto the team, and now you have the Thompsons there, you have Shane Jackson, you have all these other guys around. How easy was it to fit in?
I thought it was pretty easy. Those guys are great. You look at guys like Randy and Shane, and Jordan Hall was on that team. McIntosh is our captain. Like, those guys are very welcoming, and right from the first camp, it was very professional in the way that when we got on the floor, it was everything was treated as business. But then once we got the opportunity, from what I can remember, every time we had a chance to go out to dinner together or spend some time at the hotel playing cards or whatever it is, it seemed like we always made the most of those times. And that's kind of what I thought was most special about that team, was we really enjoyed spending time together.
Right. I've been lucky enough to have both Eddie and Sean on the show, talking about the teams and talking about everything around it. And again, my question to you is, in your first training camp, was it what you imagined?
Kind of. I remember watching a lot of NLL leading up to the draft in terms of like watching film and things like that. I got the chance to watch a couple games live, but I just remember feeling up to the task. Obviously there was some catching up and some things where you had to get your feet wet and get up to speed. But once I got to training camp, you make your mistakes and you learn how to play the game at a higher level. And it seemed like things just were kind of clicking into place at that camp, along with the fact that we were playing with some really good players in terms of like we as in rookies, Leo and Connor and we had the opportunity to learn from Jason Noble and learn from Jordan McIntosh. And then offensively, you got to hear Shane's perspective and Randy's perspective, not to mention Lyle. So those guys were really helpful in terms of getting us up to speed. But I think once we got the hang of things, our team really started to find success early on. Just we were scoring a lot and we were able to put up a lot of points on the board. And that was offensively, that was in transition. And Mike and net was fantastic that year. So, it just seemed like things really clicked into place.
Now, if I remember right, that's the first year that they changed the format and it was best 2 out of 3 for the playoffs and for the finals. It used to be the one game. And here we go. We're into Saskatchewan. I was actually at the game in Saskatchewan. And strange ending.
Yeah.
With I think it was 10 or 12 seconds left, down by a goal. Both teams pull their goalies. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, that one's it doesn't happen too often in lacrosse, and I think from you'd have to ask Eddie, but for us, that decision is like we got to go forward and we got to make a play on the ball, and for them, the thought is we have to keep the ball away for a little bit. I get it. A bounce pass is kind of tough, but it was able to hop right up into my stick, and I quickly got it over to Joel as fast as I could. But that series was awesome. I don't know if I've played, maybe this summer was like on that level in terms of excitement and nerves and all sorts of different emotions that you feel in a game. But Saskatchewan was so loud that I felt my heart beating in my chest, and you could hardly hear yourself think. But one of the coolest atmospheres to play in a championship game for sure.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough, actually, where I was sitting was right where it was Miles Delisle for the goal. Literally, it was right there. And it was like, wow. just to watch that that was the season right there, just watching those guys and just so fluid. Boom, boom, boom. And it's in, and that's it.
Yeah, just a little flip pass and then short side by Miles. It was, I remember that whole thing pretty well.
I guess so, yeah. Now, over the next couple of years, the team is still really strong. Of course, COVID shut it all down. When you guys came back, obviously a couple of guys had moved on, and rebuilding in those positions. Last year was weird because you were the best 0-8 team I've ever seen. Absolutely, bar none, the best 0-8 team I've ever seen. By a goal or two, that could have easily been 6-2. One bounce one way or the other. A couple of good things yielded, though, out of it. One, Dauber, that he finally got in and really took the reins in net. And I think more than anything, and I think it'll show coming this year, is the character of your team. Because nobody quit. That team, down the stretch, the last 8 to 10 games, your team was probably the toughest team to play in the league, I think.
Yes, I would say so. It was one of those things that you play like you have nothing to lose, and good things can happen. We felt like we were backed into a corner, and we knew there was a lot of talent in the room that we had. It was a lot about finishing games and playing with emotion and not playing emotional. So really just trying to balance that. But yeah, I agree with you. It was really tough to start the year 0-7. We had players only meeting and things happened, but it just didn't seem to kind of work out for us. And then, once we got into that spot where it was like this is make or break for us. We really started to go on a roll. But yeah, I mean, Dauber was the backbone of our team. I would anticipate that he's, going to be pretty confident after his championship this summer. So, we're looking forward to seeing him back at training camp, and I think the sky's the limit for him. Like, he plays with such confidence, and it took him a little bit to get his feet wet, but like everyone, like all young goalies, they have to struggle a little bit. And the best thing about him is he's such a lax rat. Like, he'll watch everyone's shots, and he'll know kind of exactly what plays they're running and things like that. So he is very, very prepared. So it's one of those things for him, like, what he puts into it, he's going to get out of it. And I think he's one of those guys. He's up for the task. He's a guy that we all have a ton of confidence in. So excited to see where he's at again this year.
Right. And of course, he had to make that last second save with the Archers to save the championship too, right? So grace under pressure, I'd say so.
Yeah.
That's a guy I wouldn't mind having in my nets could come box too, right? So
he's a gamer.
Now, your role on the team, like we talked about it as you're coming up rookie and newer player. Now as a veteran for the new guys coming in, how has your role changed on this team?
I don't know if it's changed. It's just kind of evolved. You want to make sure that the guys coming in feel the same way that I did when I was coming into the team in 2017. So it's just a lot of keeping in touch with them and making sure that you've introduced yourself. You're showing that you care about them on and off the floor. And I'm excited to see where our team's at this year. I think for me, in terms of positionally, I've talked with Eddie and Chai, and it's going to be very similar to previous years where, wherever kind of I needed that game is where I'll fit. And in terms of like our draft guys, you look at, we got Hickey in the draft, who we're really excited about. And there's a bunch of rookies coming in that can really help our team. So, we're looking forward to that for sure.
Definitely. Now, as a media guy and as a fan, watching the league evolve to where it is now is exciting. Just seeing it with games of the week and all the things that I've been screaming about forever that we need to do to get this game to grow and off this level to here. As a player, how do you see this evolving?
In terms of the schedule itself?
The schedule, and just as the league itself, as it grows, you're going to arenas that are a little bit more full. You have a bigger fan base. You have a bigger, wider group because they're able to catch it on the internet if they're not able to get to games. So just the league in itself, I don't think it's a fringe sport anymore. I think it's on the echelon of becoming one of the main things. It's the fastest growing sport for sure. And I believe it's the only sport that during COVID expanded. So
yeah, I guess in terms of like where we're playing and stuff, it's pretty cool once you get in there and you see like the Loud House in Colorado, or we've been doing pretty well in Georgia over the last couple of years now. It's continuing to grow. You look at Sask in 2017, Buffalo basically every night. So it's great for the sport in terms of young guys going to see, what the National Lacrosse League looks like. I remember when I was going to watch the Rock at the ACC when I was a kid, it was packed almost every game. So, yeah, I mean, the sport's definitely growing. It's in a great spot. I think the new commissioner has done some really great things for us so far, and the future looks really bright. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of the schedule, I really like the new format. I think it allows, every city to potentially see a Lyle or a Dane or Dane Dovey, like guys coming in that they normally wouldn't see. So it's awesome that young kids can go and see some of their favorite players. But at the same time, every team that comes to town or every team that you go to is very good now. So there's no easy game on the books. And, so that kind of generates a high level of competition. And it's great that young kids and families can see where this game is going.
Right. Now, with the Arena Lacrosse League here in Canada, East and West, and the PBLA, at least for the first half of last year, hopefully they find a way to get back in, places for guys to play who don't quite make the cut. I was looking when I was doing depth charts that there's got to be 35 to 40 guys coming to camp in almost every single team. And out of those 40, 30 to 35 of them are NLL bona fide players. So there's a lot of guys, a lot of talent that aren't going to be on the rosters. Is it time, do you think, for the league to look at expansion again?
I don't think I get paid enough to make that decision. In terms of buying into a franchise, it is quite an investment. But if you were to ask all the players and people involved with this game, we would tell you that it is a great investment. Because everyone believes in what we're doing, and like you mentioned, we're at a spot now where if we don't start to open up some more roster spots for guys that should definitely be in this league, then we kind of have to look at what the ALL does in terms of like an AHL franchise, so to speak,
right,
in comparison to the NHL, right? So, something similar to that, or if we look to add one or two teams, you're still going to have a really high level of competition. There's new guys coming into the draft every year in terms of NCAA guys, but then you look at like the American box lacrosse scene is kind of blowing up now. You're getting guys like Spalina and Kirst coming up to play over the summer here. So it's getting a ton of exposure. But I think everyone's really seeing that the summer ball, the junior A lacrosse really helps grow your skill set as you're going through college. So, I think the talent pool is not only growing itself because of the amount of NCAA teams and box lacrosse teams around the world, but in terms of the guys from America supplementing that pool, you're getting a ton more talent than we're probably used to. So right. I think maybe it might be time.
Right. And it's also, the one thing we haven't touched on is a lot of the teams that have come into the league who, came into areas that maybe weren't box lacrosse hot, but have put grassroots programs in with you guys and gone into the community. And I know in Saskatchewan they've done it. I know in Halifax they've done it. A number of places have done it. Ontario, Oakville is a huge hotbed again for lacrosse, as well as Orangeville and Peterborough and the rest of these things. And in the U.S., again, with the U.S. Box Law and some of the other programs going on. So you have it from the grassroots. So you have kids that are coming in now and growing up with box and understanding the whole realm, not just kind of being thrown and kind of watch it here and there. So right from the word go, the U.S. is catching up with Canada. So I think there has to be some form. Otherwise, we're going to lose them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that can be examined, but that price tag is pretty high, but probably worth it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to the field game a little bit and PLL, and you in the merger, in the swallowing of the MLL, you get drafted third round, and I think you were steal. Off to the Whip Snakes, off to a really great team, and you just hit the ground running there. Let's talk about the PLL in general for a player. First of all, you get health benefits and a decent, player salary comparative to what it had been. Let alone it pushes the envelope for all the other places.
Yeah, that was. I was really fortunate to go to the Whip Snakes. I think it's like 70% of the team or something is Maryland guys. So the comfortability aspect was definitely there in terms of sliding into a locker room and onto a field with guys that you've played before. It always helps. But that league, I had a lot of fun in the one summer that I played in. Playing with the guys that I mentioned and meeting some new guys that from other schools and other teams was pretty cool. But I think the PLL is doing a great job. I think they've done a really good job of getting themselves set up in terms of playing in front of a lot of fans everywhere they go.
Right.
I think they've, I kind of look back towards Albany every year. That Casey Stadium is full to the brim, and it's an awesome atmosphere. And it seems like that was the same thing everywhere we went in the year that I played. So, looking at the fan engagement and the social media side, it's definitely grown, and I think there's going to be a lot of success there.
Right. Now, I've always enjoyed the game itself, and even with the regular world rules and the rest. But when the World Lacrosse tournament was on this past summer, I really didn't realize how trained we've become watching the PLL with the 2-point goal, with the shot clock, with all the other things that are going on to make it that much quicker of a game as opposed to the traditional game. And of course, that's going to draw more and more fans because it's television friendly, it's quick, it catches everybody's attention, let alone all the highlight reel stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny to try and explain the different styles of lacrosse between sixes and field and box lacrosse and the international game. So, looking at the style and the gameplay format, the way the PLL does it in terms of field lacrosse, I think it's great. I think it's great for the kids to learn too. There's not a lot of time to think about mistakes or, back when I was in college and even before then, when they had like that every 10 seconds you had to touch it in the box, it was like a lot more chess than checkers. And, it had great aspects to it. You had to learn the game and all the intricacies to it. This one is a little bit more viewer friendly. And I think a lot of the players would probably say that they enjoyed a lot more getting up and down the field. You really get to see how talented these guys are when they're making plays at such a high level and such a high speed.
Now, you had an opportunity with Team Canada doing sixes in Alabama. And of course, we just got word that it's in the final stages to be in the 2028 Olympics as sixes. When we had Mark Riccio on the program, CEO of US Lacrosse, he was talking about it as a grassroots thing, thinking that, unlike the regular field game, and you get, the occasional kid who wants to be with his buddies who's really not that athletic, going to be like the right fielder in baseball, plays midfield and hopes the ball doesn't come to him and just wants to be out there. In sixes, everybody's running around everywhere. So they're kind of learning the game without even knowing they're learning the game. And you don't need a whole lot of people to play it, which should be enticing to a lot of other countries to get involved as well. We just got 4 more into World Lacrosse, an announcement today. So it's just growing leaps and bounds, and getting into the Olympics, I think, is going to be huge. What was your take when you played that first championship with Canada in Alabama in sixes?
I thought the style, like the new gameplay style, was awesome. It reminded me a lot of basketball. It's very similar to what we do in the NLL, just with bigger nets and smaller goalies. So it's in a spot where I think there can be a lot of success in sixes. It's great for the kids to play because they learn very quickly, and there's just it's all really based on skill and repetition for them. And you don't have to deal with like learning the intricacies of being a long stick defender or having an LSM sub on and off the field. I think it's something that for the kids, they can learn it very quickly, and then they can kind of develop into playing, field lacrosse proper, I guess.
Right.
But that whole experience with Canada was awesome. We were obviously coached by Brody and Junior, 2 of the best players to ever do it. So, it didn't take a lot to want to play hard for them. And then you look at the group that we had, it was just absolutely stacked. And the best part about that group is, again, we played cards, we went out to lunch, like we really spent a lot of time with each other away from the field. But then when we got on there, everyone was very professional, very intense. So it made for a really competitive atmosphere. But there was a lot of unselfish guys in that group. So it made for a really fun time on the field.
Right. And of course, the PLL has their tournaments in February, which is also cool because just as you're starting to forget about PLL 6 months out and just before the season starts, away you go with this one. Last year's one was kind of weird because they had football scores. It just was so high scoring. I don't know. I know they're still going to be tinkering before it gets towards the Olympics. And of course, being in LA, you're going to have Hollywood in there. So all the best camera angles and stuff. So the finished product that I think we're going to see by the time it gets to the Olympics is a little bit different than what we're doing right now, I think.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of lacrosse, right? Is you can change up the rules. And you can see what best suits each gameplay style, I guess. And yeah, I think six is in a great spot for the Olympics. It would do a lot for our sport. It would really put us on the map. But I think what people would really see is how talented the players across the game are, and you really get to see Lyle playing in like sixes. You get to see him playing in outdoor. You get to see him playing in indoor. So, in terms of the players individually, it would really propel their careers and their brands and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Now we only got a couple of minutes left. This has gone by like this, man. That's just, again, I want to thank you. I want to talk a bit about your coaching, because I know that's the end game. I'm sure when you're done playing is to continue on coaching. Now you started out with Pace Academy as your first really, other than giving lessons and this and that, but your first defensive coordinator and doing that, and you're with Everest now. Let's talk about these programs.
Yeah, so Pace was an opportunity that presented itself when I actually moved down to Georgia in 2018. I was really fortunate to be a part of that program. Fred Asaf and Troy Baker, they ran a great program there, and it was awesome to see the kids. Sometimes they weren't always there for lacrosse, which was really a great thing because they gave every ounce of attention and effort towards their high school career. Excuse me. So getting those guys to play hard wasn't really tough. So I really appreciated that part. And then, fast forward to Everest was when I think as a coach, I took a bigger step in terms of my learning and my understanding of the game. But it also gave me the ability to coach at a higher level. And every single guy there was really there to get an education in the NCAA, but also be an athlete. So, you really got to push the guys on a different level and see a lot of the potential that these guys had really come to fruition. So, very fortunate to be a part of Everest, and very thankful to Clem for bringing me on staff. It's a program that's definitely growing. And I think the sky's the limit for them in terms of, they're in a great spot being in Vaughan, and they're able to travel. And because they don't have, they're part of the MSLA now, but, you can put really anybody that'll take you down on your schedule. So we're able to play some of the best teams in Maryland, like Gilman and Spalding. And then, you go 5 hours west, and then all of a sudden you're playing Culver and Western Reserve. So it's great for the kids in terms of exposure and playing the game at a really high level. You're going to play against guys that are Division I bound, and guys that you want to be playing against in terms of a barometer at where you stand. So, it's a great spot for student athletes to develop and become what they want to become in terms of, their playing ability and their academic capabilities. So very fortunate to be a part of that school.
All right. We only have about a minute left. This coming season, you're just about ready for training camp. What do we have to look forward to with Georgia this year, do you think?
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of, what we showed in the second half of last year. A team that's hungry to prove that we're not, a 500 team. We want to get into the playoffs first and foremost, and really give our best effort towards winning a championship. I think it's really hard to do in this league, but there is a bunch of belief in our locker room that we can get this done. You've got a fantastic goalie, and you've got one of the best players in the world in Lyle Thompson and Shane Jackson. So. We're hoping for the best this year, hoping that everyone stays healthy and we can have a great year.
Well, I want to thank you again. I know it's take a lot of time out of your schedule to do this, and I really, really appreciate it, and so do our fan base here. So thanks again, and we wish you all the best in this upcoming season and through everything.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you having me on.
That's Bryan Cole, and I just want to remind everybody this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out at spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, Spanglish Sports World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Until next week, Take care, everybody.